to get into what we're doing today, I have a real passion for helping companies be efficient, and doing so, it comes and stems from an industrial background, and that's how we're going to go forward with today's idea. Everything I'm going to show you guys today is based in PDM with a little bit of SOLIDWORKS kind of mixed in there. So the idea of being efficient in SOLIDWORKS also comes from the file system. So we're going to be using those efficiencies to create starter parts, starter assemblies. We're going to be able to administrate for our users and make them more efficient. And then we're going to be able to then at the very end be able to distribute that content for customers and vendors and even our internal users that just need a different way to access the data. So all of that being said, we're going to get into it right now. We're going to go ahead and take a look at data management. If you haven't discovered what PDM is, there's the acronym. It's Product Data Management. So that's what it stands for. So SOLIDWORKS PDM is our data management platform. It's based inside of Windows Explorer, and in doing so, this is kind of a quick primer for you guys that haven't seen it. It can store anything that you can save in Windows. All of the SOLIDWORKS data, it can save Word documents, Excel files, even this PowerPoint show if we wanted to put it in there, email, other CAD platforms, DWGs, DXFs, imagery, videos, anything related to the products themselves. So all of those files can be placed into the PDM system and available for usage by all of the users. With that being said, we want to take a look at how that vaulting happens, right? We put it in there, we vault it, but then what really happens in the background? We're actually handling it with revision control, we're doing version control, and then potentially workflow. If we get time today, we'll cover a little bit of that, but our main focus is about the efficiencies at the beginning of the creation process. So at the very beginning of the workflow, when designers are really in the weeds of things, we want to get that and make that efficient. So the first thing that I want to cover is how do we handle engineering change? The idea of making a document or a template of some sort and making that and distributing it is pretty easy to do. We want to also make sure that the users are only inputting data once. You know, that eliminates error downstream, and then outputting it appropriately in the various places it needs to go. So when we do this, we were going to set it up inside of the PDM system, and we can have it going into its own folder. We can have it also going into the folder where we're in, or any other choice that you want. The idea is that we want to then take some documentation or some ideas, and we want to attach those. Once we get a little bit farther in the presentation, I'll go back and I'll reference back to the ECO that we create right now, and then do the attachment. So without further ado, I'm going to get right into the thick of things with our engineering change. You'll notice that I'm in Windows Explorer. I can navigate to my Vault system directly through my quick access, and I have my list of folders available. So these things are available. These are buckets. These are areas where I can place data. You'll notice that engineering has its own section. It's easy for administration that way. And I have my ECO folder outside of engineering so that anyone can add files there with proper permissioning. Now, in doing so, we can go forward and we can set it up. We can just say, you know what, give me an ECO. Well, in this case, I want to effect a drawing that, let's say 1987, we'll do the same part and assembly, and we can specify a responsible department. It could be a documentation error. It could be something that we need to kind of rework some various componentry. And I could say need to make a change and add whole. Okay, so with that reason, we can further give a better explanation or description of it as well. We can affect inventory and documentation. All of those selections, everything that you see here is customizable. Customize this a little bit to make it user-friendly for me. But if you have different fields or different classifications that you need to find and put into the Vault, we can put those fields on there, no problem at all. By doing this first engineering change order directly within the Vault, I'm able to very easily create the same component template and then have that available to my users. So upon editing the document, I can then see that all of the data would then be placed into the file, right? So editing the content, we'll see that that distributes correctly into the file with all of my data that I've put on the first data card. So I'm not retyping anything, I'm putting in this information, and I then save that back to make sure that the preview comes up correctly. So now everyone can see that it's all in great shape. We have a good data card with all of the information on it. At this point, we've been able to create and use a template. In the background, what's happening inside of the administration tool is it's using a template possibility. This engineering change order can be easily administrated by selecting individual folders and placing individual files and componentry. You'll notice that I have a variable used for the serial number that's being applied to it. I don't know if you noticed, but all of the numbers that I'm using for ECO are in sequence. So the next number in line is going to be the next file in line. So that's the way we're administrating it. We can make adjustments to the way this works and what variables go where as well. So all of the administration of this is very, very simple. And putting in a template, whether it be an ECO, maybe a requisition, I use some for scopes of work. I also have done some for, outlandish as it is, vacation requests and things like that. All of those different styles of documents, whether it be RFQ, or requests or material specs or even engineering change like this, whether it's an ECR, ECO, ECN, whichever flavor you call it, those are all available to us. So being able to take a document and input it and make it one of the other ones is very, very simple. Now, you'll see that I have other styles of documents as well. I've used a Word document in this case, but I could very easily have done this in Excel. And actually, personally, it's my preference. The data goes bidirectionally with an Excel file. We also have the ability to use an XML document as well. So if you want to switch over to a newer format where there's no limitation of character count, you can actually use an XML, and I think the limit is something like 65 million characters. It's way up there, so it's unlikely to hit that boundary. For Office files, however, there is a limit of 250 characters in order to transfer the data into the file. So looking at this, we see an engineering change is very easy to create. The template itself can be done by the administrators, and then every time we do it, it's very, very consistent, allowing me to input the data once and have a great result from it. Now, our next idea is that we're going to do that same thing, but we're going to do it to create a new project structure. I need that for the next few things that we're going to do. We're going to take some files from another project, and we're going to duplicate that into a brand new project that we've been given. So we needed to generate a number, just much like the ECO has done. We needed to nest folders that have our internal bucket system for engineering, and then we needed to name everything appropriately. So very quickly and easily, I can take and I can allow and leverage the power of PDM to create new document structures, project structures for me. All right, so let's have a look at that. Whenever we go back to the root of the vault, we'll see that we have engineering, and inside of engineering, there is a projects area, and this is where we're going to be placing our project. There is a great structure here, and you'll notice the last one on the sequence is 175. I could be here, I could be anywhere else in the vault, and I can choose the same thing, and it'll go ahead and put its structure in the proper location for me. So I know that the project is related to a Panzos a new vehicle, and so my project name is going to be from this new model that they have. So we're going to take the name and we're going to use that again inside of our template here. And our project location, let's bring it back down to my hometown, Houston, Texas, and say new design for wheel assembly. All right, so I'm going to set this up so that we're going to be able to do exactly that. And the project is going to appear with all of the pertinent information that I had placed on the, I tried to move it, on the original data card has been placed here so that I can leverage that on files that are going to end up going here. We also see that inside of the project, there's already a project structure with different things that we need, whether it be a checklist, design data area, some sales documentation. Maybe we have a place for our specifications and things like that. Those are all available to us, but you'll notice that the same way that I created the file earlier, I can create an Excel-based checklist for my project, and it's available inside of my design as well. So automatically, as I create the project, I'm editing, I'm bringing in new documentation. Maybe it's specifications that happen with every one of our projects, but you'll notice all of the information that I just placed is being put inside of the document as well, making that ease of use and that limitation of making errors when we re-input data. So all of those things are being done, and it's happening seamlessly for our project. It's a great way to leverage the project structure capabilities inside of PDM templates for us and making it easy to create those. Now, the next thing that we want to talk about is how do we leverage a little bit of SOLIDWORKS design. The SOLIDWORKS design idea and the template idea we covered yesterday in an Extraordinary Everyday Templates webinar that we did. If you guys had a chance to attend that, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you got a lot of great information out of it. If you didn't, however, please search it up on our YouTube channel, and you'll find the link there if you want to just copy down the last part of that. But the idea is that we want to take and we want to leverage SOLIDWORKS templates too. Make our users efficient, not only in PDM, but also with SOLIDWORKS in general. Now, some of the things that we create inside of SOLIDWORKS are the same but different, and they're very simple models. Maybe they're a round shaft, or maybe they're a skid like I have shown on the slide. And in this case, the one that I'm going to use is a roll cage, right? Now, obviously, I'm sticking with the car theme for this presentation, and so we want to use a roll cage, but I want to change a few dimensions, and I'll save that into my project. Now, those types of templates can be used and leveraged very, very easily. And it's just by taking and creating the geometry once and then starting a new part with that geometry. So when we go and fire up a template, it's already got the weldment in it, it's already got all of the features in it, it's got extruded cuts and the swept features, and all of those exist. And in this case, I have one singular sketch that's driving the design. So if I wanted to make it, we got a flatter design than what this roll cage is, we might make it 42 tall, and then it's going to have a wide stance, so we might make it 7 feet or something similar. And that, just those few changes, I now have a finished roll cage that's per our specifications, and we can save that into our project. So just by using a standard file save as inside of SOLIDWORKS, we'll go ahead and navigate to our vault. We'll go ahead and access it through our quick access area, and we'll go back into our project. Okay, don't hesitate to use the questions panel as you guys are if there's anything that comes up that you are wondering about, those are things that we want to answer, and so we'll get those. Just pop that in the questions area over in the webinar in the GoToMeeting panel. So let's go ahead and make our way to the engineering project that we're working on. So go ahead and place that in the project, the new one. One other thing that I'd like to make mention of is that the fact that I don't have to give it a name, however I could, but it's automatically numbering it for me, and that's a power that's available inside of our SOLIDWORKS PDM Professional application. So you can auto number componentry and have it automatically go in as the number, so the user doesn't have to necessarily name that. But that's a great way to put the files in. What's going to happen next is it's going to present me with a data card available to that PDM, and we'll continue on with the process of getting our file located appropriately. So just need to make a few adjustments. You'll see that some of the project information has already come across. It's already brought it in for me. It's brought in potentially the customer, or I could go ahead and put that in as needed. So when we go and do that, we can then save the file. We can then check in the file directly within the SOLIDWORKS interface and get that file fully vetted inside of the vault. All right, you'll see that the user that I am right now, I'm an administrator of the system, but I'm checking in the file, and its containment is all of the weldment profiles. So I may give it a good comment at this point, saying initial check-in for the project, and that'll get it going so everyone else in the organization can then see it. Now, that's a pretty easy way to use and leverage a template in order to create a design that's pretty complicated and do it very, very quickly. We can use an existing design that way. It's a common part, same but different kind of situation with just singular dimensions that change and modify, and that's a very, very easy way to do it. Now, let's get into a more complicated, complex kind of arrangement. I have a wheel assembly. It's got a sub-assembly, it's got some parts, it's got different things that need to happen, and I need to make it the same, but it's a little different, right? So I know that every one of you guys on the webinar now have that situation come up. It's commonplace in engineering. It's like, I want to do the same thing I did 6 months ago, but, and then of course whatever the change is. So the idea of doing that is I want that to be seamless. I really want that to work well and have automatic numbering like we saw in the part just now. We want it to automatically go in and have a very seamless interface for our user. And doing that, we can go forward with placing the same wheel assembly that we had created before for our GT2 and put that in our latest Panzos project. So the idea of doing the same but different is using something called copy tree. If you're familiar with pack and go in SOLIDWORKS, it operates much the same way. We can actually have this go and generate, but using the copy tree functionality for a particular drawing. Now, I'm using a drawing. I could very easily use an assembly to do this, or I could use an individual part in drawing. All of that would work well. So if it's just one singular part in a drawing you want to duplicate but then separate, and that's the key. So I'm taking the same assembly, but I'm separating it from the original and potentially leaving out a few things along the way. So when I use a copy tree on the wheel assembly, I'm going to take this file and I'm going to make it just a little bit different in where it lands. So the first thing we need to select is to put it in the proper directory. So let's take a look at where we can put that. Let's go back to our project section and we'll kind of navigate down into our new project and make sure that we get it to land in the proper position. All right, so there we are. So the only thing that we see there is the roll cage that I just put in, but I want to take this wheel assembly and I want to put it there because that's one of the changes from the other design, right? So let's go ahead and do that, and you'll notice that the destination path will change. And you'll see that as 176 instead of 170, where we are located now. I'll also see that the file name is different. So if I wanted to append a prefix or a suffix to this particular item, I could very easily append the model name to it or some other designation. Now, in doing so, that's going to append it to all the file names, and that would be a very quick and easy way to replace a number or to append a prefix to it. If you had something that was not that way, or maybe you needed to replace it, you could also do that. So I can find what's there and I can replace it with a project number, for instance. If I choose to do that, you'll notice that it jumps and does that. So that's a really quick way. If all of the files that exist there have a number in them that's consistent, well, then we can just do a replace, and that's a pretty easy way to go. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to rename with a serial number, but before we do that, I want to go ahead and take off this brake pad. That's not going to change in my finished design, but potentially a lot of the other things will. So I'm going to deselect that one so that it doesn't become a new. It's going to be used from the 170 project. I can rename the rest with the new serial numbers, and we'll go ahead and choose that. Now, this one is going to be not renamed because I want that to come from the assembly itself. You'll notice that remained the same, and then choosing an option will give me the flexibility of renaming that with the drawing number. We'll just make sure, I'll put it in there. I think I got my sequence off a little. but nonetheless, we can go ahead and manually do it. It's not a problem at all. So there's the flexibility of doing it either direction. And now we've got the same name for the drawing and the assembly, that way we can reference those together, or if you have different numbers, you can use that. At this point, I'm ready to copy. It's going to take the entire assembly. It's going to separate it from the original. It's going to re-reference all of the new numbering. So 19880 is going to be inside of the 19879 assembly, and it's going to then be shown on the drawing without any references to the original or named structure. So we will have a completely separated idea, except for that one file that I chose to leave alone, which is the brake pad. Okay. Takes just a second, but saves me quite a lot of work in the process. So as we do that, we can then take a look at our finished product of what's happened in our design data for 176. Now, looking over at that folder, we'll see that the new structure does exist. We can then see the drawing that exists over there. We can see that it has a nice preview. If we select that, we'll see that we have a nice preview for that. We also have a nice preview for the assembly within our PDM system that is three-dimensional. All right, so that's a great way to use and leverage the design reuse. Now, the one thing that I have here is that I do need to make a change. So I'm going to immediately open it once it's created, and I'm going to do that same but different idea. So we can see that the drawing is the basis. So we'll open the drawing first, and we'll kind of traverse down to the part that we do need to modify. Make a quick change, and we'll come back out, and we'll see the results of that. Okay, so by opening the assembly directly from the drawing, that allows me to kind of drill down through the structure itself to make the changes necessary. So now we'll get into the component part and take a look at how to make a change just real quick to the rim itself. There we have it. So the original extrude included the cut, and so we will need to make adjustment to the original sketch for this, but it is very easy to manipulate and make the changes necessary. In our new design, it has a wider stance. It also is a consumer grade, where this one may have been a racing grade. So we want to eliminate any weight reductions that may cause a problem when someone hits a curb. So that's kind of our premise, and that's our idea for the change. But as we go forward with this modification, we'll then just come back out and we'll see the results all the way through the design process. At the end of it, we can go ahead and check the file in. You'll see that it is a little bit beefier design. Go ahead and save and close and make our way back out. So quickly and easily, I'm able to adjust and change all of the component parts. It's going to reflect itself back on the assembly as well as the drawing, and we'll be able to finish this up. Okay, so looking real good at the assembly level. We'll go ahead and save that one down. All right, looking good on the drawing as well. So this change is great, and we can go ahead and input that into our PDM system just very quickly with just doing a simple check-in. At the same time as the check-in, it's going to perform a save operation to the local system and then check in the files to the server. So at the finish line of this, we'll have a finished design with the adjustments made in the rim itself, as well as published out to the organization that can see it, right? Obviously, we're still in a work in process. We haven't gone through a workflow itself per se, but those things will happen and occur. So we'll say change. Give it a good note so that our audit trail is complete, and then once it's fully checked in, we'll be back over into Windows Explorer. Now that'll happen just a moment. While we wait for that to finish off, I believe we're kind of done. We've been able to take an assembly and turn it into the same but different, just very, very quickly. I only made one change, but you can make numerous changes if necessary, depending on the design needs. But that sort of idea, as we go through and adjust the assembly and bring it out, is a great way to create the same but different. The one thing that's the power of PDM is it allows us to do searching, and the search capabilities within PDM are astounding. They're really fast, and depending on what parameters you put in at the beginning, I had a few things that I had in the designs. I had description, I had revision, maybe who I am when I created it, any type of model classification that you so choose. Other types of things could be cage codes and document categories. Those are very, very common examples of things that would go in there. Other items can be placed in there as well. And at the end, once I get the perfect search and maybe I need that again, I have the ability to then save that as a favorite inside of my system so that every time I need that, I can just call it at the ready. So let's get in and let's take a look at how we can find things very quickly and easily with this search capability. Now, I'm going to be looking for a few things, and maybe I'm coming back a few months from now and I need to find that roll cage that I created at the very beginning. So I need to remember that it had an 8 in the part number and it had cage, right? Obviously. So those are the few parameters that I know. And those things can be very easily searched. So maybe I want to look for anything that has an 8 in the number. We can find all kinds of things. We can see that there's assemblies, there's different componentry. If I look at individual components, I can see them and I can see them inside of the interface. Obviously, we've seen that before. We've got a 3-dimensional preview, but sure enough, it's got a 78 in the part number, and that's what I've searched on. Now, I will eventually see if I sort through them, I might find my roll cage, but that's not a great way to do that. I've got too many listings here that I have to sort through in order to find what I absolutely want. So in order to do that, I'm just using a secondary search, and it could be a description, it could be a revision, it could be who I am, what today's date is. The list is endless, but those things are the things that are captured on the original data card, and if it was, then I'm going to find exactly that singular file that I'm after, and I'm going to see, sure enough, it is the roll cage that we had. I've got other pertinent information for where it's found, potentially, and you can see that it's in our 176 folder, and I can very, very quickly find that and use that. Now, another way to do this is to actually use not what we call the complete search, but to run that same search using a different way. So we can say, let's use the same way that we input the data, which is on our data card from our model, and we can input it the same way. So if I do the 78 and I search for cage, now that's might be a little bit easier for users to put the data back in the right spot. And that same result will occur when using a search card such as this one. Okay, so I find that same file. So when I do that, I may be able to save that, and potentially this would be all roll cages, or you could name it appropriately and save it. But what that would result in is being able to search for different types of things that you saw in this list. Files that are pending approval, files that are checked out by a particular individual, those things that are easy to search by here might be the best way to go about it. So all of those favorites and saving them and being able to use that and leverage that search capability is a great way to use PDM and allow for everything to come in and then be searchable later on. Now, that's a great way to do it. The last thing that I have for you guys today is the ability to publish this and use this from anywhere. Now, I do have to be very careful when I advertise this. Most of the time, folks set this up as an internal usage for internal web use and device use. If you decide to publish from anywhere, you will have to make changes, and IT will have to publish a web server outside of the building. So if that's something that you're okay with, then absolutely anywhere is the right term. Anywhere inside might be a better term if IT restricts that. So the idea of using the Web2 service off of PDM is the ability to quick search the same way that we saw before. We can use it on any mobile device, right? We can use it on an Android, we can use it on a tablet, we can use it in any web browser. We can then do the ability to preview like we've seen inside of the thick interface for PDM. We have also the idea of showing information to the users for where it's used, what the contains tab has on it, and then also offer folks with the contributor or better capability, the ability to change state of files, so approving things, working things through the workflow. So let's take a look at how that is. So when we look at our, oh man, that's a beautiful car. I love that. That's great. But let's get into how we can find that roll cage this way. Whenever we navigate and log into the vault, this does offer a login capability, much like the other side of the vault. You do have to authenticate to get to here, and then once you do, you can then run searches and find things in either the current folder set or all of the folders. And I'm just going to try, let's look for a cage and let's see how many we come up with. And it looks like I've got 2 cages coming up, the original roll cage that I placed in the vault, as well as the one we just did. So let's take a look at this one. When we look at the file and the preview inside the web service, it does a conversion into an e-drawing file. And so that process takes just a second, and we'll be able to see that. In the meanwhile, we can look at the data card. We can see that some of the data card information is available to us. We can also see that the bill of materials, contains and where used, are available directly on this singular file. There we go. So being able to look at the information directly here is also available for us. So we can see the project name came across, all of the project information, who I am when I checked it in, and all of the numbers and things. So when we look at the bill of materials for the component, we'll see that structure is available to us directly. So when we look at here, we have the ability to see weldment bombs and information. This one only contains 1 2.5-inch pipe, so we'll see that there's a quantity of 17. But looking at a preview, we can see that happens as well. And if we wanted to open it up directly within eDrawings, that would be very capable. If we had used this elsewhere, or if it contained other information, we would see that. This particular file has just the one reference, and so that's what we can see. All right. Looking at other data from within that same project is available to us. So when we go and we look at the checklists or other types of documents like Excel files, Word files, PDFs, material specifications, anything that's available, we'll see those nice previews at the same time. So the file that you guys saw just a little bit ago when I created the project has that same capability for visibility here. Excellent. So visibility of individual Excel files, multi-page previews, all of the sort is available within the web interface, so that you can take a look at anything that's pertinent to your project and get that from any device that you choose. I've shown it here in Windows and inside of a Chrome browser, but that also works on Safari, on iPads, and Android tablets as well. So those are all available to us. If you load the eDrawings application inside of those devices, you'll then also be able to present a 3-dimensional view of individual assemblies and componentry.